Hello, everyone. It is June 10th, 2021. Today's afternoon devotional and Bible study. We will be reading through Jesus is Calling for today, and we'll be continuing through the book of Ezekiel with chapter 27. Holy cow, we're already up to 27. But before we continue with that, we're going to get started with some good old Jesus Calling. Let me take a sip. It's just nice to have something to sip on as you've been talking. Yeah, I actually was going to start this early, and then I got lost in Facebook world as I was getting ready to do the live stream. Anyways, without further ado, let's jump into Jesus is Calling for June 10th. Rest in me, my children. Give me your mind and break from planning and trying to anticipate what will happen. Pray continually, asking my spirit to take charge of the details of this day. Remember that you are on a journey with me. When you try and peer into the future and plan for every possibility, you ignore your constant companion who sustains you moment by moment as you gaze anxiously into the distance. You don't even feel the strong grip of my hand holding yours. How foolish are you, my child? Remembrance of me is a daily discipline. Never lose sight of my presence with you. This will keep you resting in me all day, every day. That was inspired by 3 different sections of the Bible. The first is pray continually, 1 Thessalonians 5:17. And then, if I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. Your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. Psalm 139, 9-10. That's kind of like what we talked about with Jonah, right? Like, we can't outrun God. We can't hide from God. The rest. Find rest, O my soul, in God alone. May my hope comes from him. My hope comes in God alone. My hope comes from him. Psalm 62:5. Rest as worship. Something that is completely countercultural. We always feel like we have to do something. We have to be doing and doing and doing in order to please God, in order to be right with God. God worked out a day of rest for us in the Sabbath day. There are a lot of verses that say it's okay to rest and recharge. God let us rest. As long as we don't stay in rest, that's good. But resting is okay. Rest can be a form of worship. So often I don't feel like we spend enough time looking at that. Rest can also very much be abused. But I like that. It's a good reminder. Good reminder indeed. All right. So now we're going to jump into Ezekiel. I encourage you to read along with me. I'm reading out of the Jesus-Centered Bible, the New Living Translation version, which on the Bible Gateway app or online, you just go and it'll say NLT. And then you want to bring up Ezekiel, spelled Ezekiel, Ezekiel, and we'll be reading through chapter 27. Um, and it's the end of Tyre's glory. I'm excited to get into it. I tried to do a little bit of more research on Tyre because of some of the things that I think it's talking about, if I remember things correctly, with some of that foreshadowing when it talks about the king of Tyre possibly being Lucifer, which we're going to get into tomorrow. So I want to know if I'm actually remembering that right, if there is that metaphor there. But I also don't want to ruin the story. So yesterday we talked about Tyre and how they were mocking, like, yes, finally, we're gonna. They fell, and we're gonna claim all their riches, and we're gonna become just that much more wealthy, that much more profitable. People are gonna fear us just that much more. And God's like, no, you're not. Your castles and your money, I'm gonna send a giant wave and take everything out. Your rich people are gonna lose everything. Your city that you're holding so strongly to is not, it's a false foundation in the middle of chaotic waters, and it's going to fail, and it's going to fall, and it's going to get swallowed up by the chaotic waters of the sea, which is a metaphor that we've learned. The chaotic waters is like the troubles of life. And that's one of the ways that when you hear chaotic waters, it means danger, it means all that sort of stuff. And they would have understood that back then. And that's how they would have heard that metaphor. It's like someone saying time is money, or, you know, many of the other things that we use today. And God being a solid rock is that metaphor for God. And it's a stand-in sometimes for God and an illustration for God. And when God's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to bring the chaotic waters are going to basically make your rock bare, but you think that you still have the solid foundation in the middle of the sea, but it's a false foundation, and it's going to sink. Saying your gods are not the same God. Your solid foundation is false. You built your lives and you entrusted a lie. You put your faith in money, and it's going to fail. I've seen stock market crashes in my lifetime. Money fails. So there's a lot of practicality in that too. But yeah, that's what we talked about yesterday. And now we're going to continue on with that story in chapter 27. Yeah, I'm excited to get back into it. As I was doing a little bit of research to try to figure out, is Tyre the stand-in for hell, I didn't really get much. So I might be wrong there, and I might not be. I don't know. It's hard because a lot of Jewish people Jewish people traditionally don't actually believe in hell. So this is part of the Jewish scripture. And if you didn't know, Christians believe in like the Jewish scripture, the Torah, if you will, the Old Testament. And then when Jesus comes on the scene, we get the New Testament. So Christians have the Old and the New Testament, which has a lot of the Torah and stuff like that in it. And then we combine it with Jesus because we believe that Jesus was the promised Messiah in the Old Testament. And actually a lot of Christianity was actually a version of the Jewish faith. And it was a sect or a denomination called the Way. It was the Jewish Christians right at the beginning were called the Way. And I think that's a really cool part of the history, and it explains some of the stuff, but it also helps bring up questions, and it's hard to study some of that stuff, especially not trying to read ahead. So but yeah, let's get back into it, or let's actually start it with Um, Ezekiel 27, starting at verse 1. Then this message came to me from the Lord: Son of man, sing a funeral song for Tyre, that mighty gateway to the sea, the trading center of the world. Give Tyre this message from the sovereign Lord. You boasted, O Tyre, my beauty is perfect. You extend your boundaries into the sea. Your builders made your beauty perfect. You were like a great ship, built in the finest cypress from Sinir. They took a cedar from Lebanon to make a mast for you. They carved your oars from the oaks of Bashan, your deck of pine from the coast of Cyprus was inladen with ivory. Your sails were made of Egypt's finest linen, and they flew as a banner above you. You stood beneath blue and purple awnings, made bright with dyes from the coast of Eshisha. Your oarsmen came from Sidon and Avard. Your helmsmen were skilled men from Tyre itself. Wise old craftsmen from Gibal did the caulking. Ships from every land came with goods to barter for your trade. That didn't really flow good as a song. Anyways, continuing from verse 10. Men from distant Persia, Lydia, and Libya served in your great army. They hung their shields and helmets on your walls, giving you great honor. Men from Avard and Helak stood on your walls. Your towers were manned by men from Gimad. Their shields hung on your walls, completing your beauty. Tarshish sent merchants to buy your wares in exchange for silver, iron, tin, and lead. Merchants from Greece, Tubal, and Meshish brought slaves and articles of bronze to trade with you. From Beth Togarmach came the riding horses and chariot horses and mules, all in exchange for your goods. Merchants came to you from Dedan. Numerous coastlines were your captive markets. They brought payment in ivory tusks and ebony wood. Syria sent merchants to buy your rich varieties of goods. They traded turquoise, purple dyes, embroidery, fine linen, and jewelry of coral and rubies. Judah and Israel traded for your wares, offering wheat from Minnith figs, honey, olive oil, and balm. Damascus sent merchants to buy your rich variety of goods, bringing wine from Halbon and white wool from Ziar. Greeks from Uzal came to trade for your merchandise. Wrought iron, cassia, and favorite calamas were bartered for your wares. Dedan sent merchants to trade their expensive saddle banks with you. The Arabians and the princes of Kedar sent merchants to trade lambs and rams and male goats in exchange for your goods. The merchants of Sheba and Rahama came with all kinds of spices, jewels, and gold in exchange for your wares. Haran, Keneh, Eden, Sheba, Asher, and Kilmad came with their merchandise too. They brought choice fabrics to trade, blue cloth, embroidery, and multicolored carpets rolled up and bound with cords. The ships of Tarshish were your ocean caravans. Your island warehouse was filled to the brim. The destruction of Tyre. But look, your oarsmen have taken you into stormy seas. A mighty eastern gale has wrecked you in the heart of the sea. Everything is lost. Your riches and wares, your sailors and pilots, your ship builders, merchants, and warriors. On the day of your ruin, everyone on board sinks into the depths of the sea. Your cities by the sea tremble as your pilots cry out in terror. All the oarsmen abandon their ships. The sailors and pilots stand on the shore. They cry aloud over you and weep bitterly. They throw dust on their heads and roll in ashes. They shave their heads in grief for you and distress themselves in burlap. They weep for you with bitter anguish and deep mourning. As they wail and mourn over you, they will sing this sad funeral song. Was there ever such a city as Tyre, now silent at the bottom of the sea? The merchandise you traded satisfied the desires of many nations, kings at ends of the earth. We enrich you by your trade. Now you are a wrecked ship, broken at the bottom of the sea. All your merchandise and crew have gone down with you. All who live along the coastline are appalled at your terrible fate. Their kings are filled with honor and look on with twisted faces. The merchants among the nations shake their heads at the sight of you. For you have come to a horrible end and will exist no more. May God add a blessing to the reading of His Word. We got some interesting things here. So we see their glory. One of the things that stood out to me was the ends of the earth. So basically, they're trading from all over, and they're offering them what they want, what they need to do whatever. And the question in my head is, what was Tyre actually offering? Why did they have these goods? Were they just taking from one and trading with another and making profit in the meantime, or did they actually have something that they were trading? Why was their role so important in this great city trade? And it was interesting, all the ways that they laid out everything that happens. And Tyre sounds like it's shifting focus from like the city on the shoreline to like boats in the middle of these songs. And so it's interesting that half the time it's like your city isn't even a rock. It's barely getting by. It's not even a real foundation. It was made by human hands. Is one of the things that I'm kind of getting out of it, to refer it back to some of the other gods that were talked about throughout a lot of the Old Testament. With like Baal is the one that I always come back to, but there was quite a few others, and they've been even name dropped so far in Ezekiel. It's just I only ever really remember Baal for some reason, which often were gods made of human hands, right? So there's that metaphor that's kind of coming out. The chaotic waters of life have brought the destruction, and they thought they were mastering everything, but the life had destroyed it, what they thought they had, the storms of life. It's interesting, and it's like it never says what their trade was, which I do find very interesting. So it's like, what was Tyre's trade? So I want to look into that a little bit more too. But right now it just seems like they came up with you need to trade with us so that we get you what you want. And they made themselves important and lifted themselves up, but it sounds like they were just basically profiting off of everybody else while convincing them they had to go through that. I could be very wrong with that point, but it's definitely interesting. And this destruction came from mocking and wanting to profit off of God's people. And that's something that Jesus took very seriously as well, when he goes and he flips tables and stuff. It was people trying to prophesy or profit off of God's people. And Jesus did not like that. So it's interesting here. Is this the origins of hell, where everyone, it's like that idea of, in a lot of our storytelling of hell and Lucifer and demons and so on and so forth, there's that idea of a trade that needs to take place. Oh, I will trade you my soul for this, or yes, I will do this for you. And it always ends up with the representative of hell coming out on top. They always manipulate and confuse the deal. So the fact that Tyre is rooted in this trade, I wonder if that helps build that metaphor and that argument that perhaps that is what's going on. I don't know. I find it interesting. I might just be making connections, but yeah, especially as we go forward and into tomorrow with the King of Tyre, I think it's interesting, and we're getting some of that origins and revealing a little bit upon what hell and the enemy likes to do. Oh, hey, you're gonna want this. Let me trade with you. If you don't trade with me, then you're gonna lose out. If you don't do this, if you don't buy this product, think about how people will think of you. And it's that materialistic fulfillment that we see today that I think is an expression from what we just read. Like I said, I might be doing a few leaps, but I think there is a decent connection there. And if we place our faith and our self-worth and our importance and our motivation is in stuff and in merchandise, it's going to fail. It's not going to look good forever. There was this one commercial, and I love it, because it really shows how abusive our relationship with stuff is. And it was this phone that someone has, and they're like, oh, you have this new phone, oh, you love it, and talked about all of its good features. And then it was like, a 30-second commercial that talked about how much you loved your phone, and then you turned into that hate relationship with your phone. And then the person throws their phone and it gets whatever, then it's like, you found a new love. And then there's this new phone, and it was an advertisement for a new phone. And it was how fickle and abusive our relationship with our stuff is. And it was definitely interesting. So the big takeaway, the big warning that I get from this chapter with what we read is, be careful who we trade with, and don't put our faith in the merchandise, in rocks and shiny things and DVD collections. Don't put our faith in those. That's the takeaway that I'm getting from this. And then the historical context is it revealing a little bit about the creation or the purpose or the role that hell was planning to tempt people over, and how the corruption of trading with an evil nation that controlled by fear, how that ended up rotting away some of those relationships. Because the second they're trading with everyone, and the second that one of them falls, it's like, ooh, cool, I can make more money off of them. There's no care about who they were. It was all about profit. Um, that love of money being the root of evil, getting exposed here too. So yeah, it's interesting. So, all right, let us pray, and I'll let you guys get on with your Thursdays. It is, in my opinion, a really nice day. My knee's not quite ready to bike yet, and I really am looking forward to my knee getting better to bike. But I can walk okay. I've gone on a couple longer walks now, so that's good. Thank you guys for your prayers. Really, really looking forward to being able to walk on my knee. But yeah, let's pray. AJC, awesome Jesus Christ. I thank you for all the ways that you love us, that you bless us, that you motivate us, that you strengthen us, that you guide us. Lord, may your faithfulness be rewarded. Help us to be cautious on who we make trades with and who we make connections with, who we let in, Lord. Who we feel like we have to trade with our money, our time, our effort. Help us to have clear vision on that. It's so hard now with so many like major companies that support this, that, and the other, but and there's a lot of trickery even going on in there. Like if you care about the environment, like some of the number one plastic polluters are creating these alternatives to trick people into using their products still. And there's a lot of manipulation and dehumanization going on in the world. Help us to be careful with who we trade with, to not support those as much as we can, because one of the ways that those companies get away with selling things at a livable rate is that it's all that some people can afford. And for the economics of it, Lord, it's difficult. So help us not to have heaps of burden and guilt on our shoulders for not being able to go other places. Help us, and especially now during this pandemic, there's very few places that we can actually turn to anyway. I lift up all the small businesses in town. Thank you that most of them can open up on Friday, tomorrow, Lord. Thank you for that. I pray, Lord, that you can help us shift from having an importance and a value, an eternal value in stuff, to having that eternal value in you, that we can not take such pride in owning nice cars, nice homes, nice TVs, nice rings, nice clothes, that we don't get our value from our stuff, but we can get our value from you. Move in our hearts, move in our souls to be able to do that. We brought up in a very materialistic world. And when we put our faith in our stuff and in our merchandise, it is a false rock in the middle of a turbulent ocean that eventually will fail us. And it will slowly rot away at our souls if we're not careful. So Lord, help us bring back into focus what is important. Let us not be so motivated by money to destroy others' lives. Help us to love one another. Help us to see you, be patient, and not get so caught up with needing to afford this, that, or the other that we forget to rest. And I thank you that you've called us to have rest as a form of worship. We are in a very materialistic world. and there are materials that we need to survive and function while we live here. But Lord, help us not to have that as our motivation. Work on our hearts. Work on us. Transform us. Thank you, Lord. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for reading with me today, or whenever you come across this. You are awesome, and I appreciate you so much. These are getting a tiny bit of traction over on YouTube. So thank you for, watching this over there, and hopefully this does help out your walk a little bit. Feel free to leave a comment or a like or what have you. It's nice to know that you're here, and it's definitely easier to find previous messages over on YouTube. So if there was something that you were interested in, I upload them weekly. So it might not, this isn't going to be up today over on YouTube, but I upload them weekly on Mondays, and you can go back. It's something that I didn't start doing until this year. And I have a plan to do the backlog. It's just downloading Facebook video for some of them and finding other ways of doing it. It's a big rigmarole. But anyways, thank you guys so much for spending today with me, reading, focusing on God, discovering a little bit more about this world, and a little bit about the world about 600 years before Jesus walked in. But yeah, thank you very much. Have a great day. God bless.